Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be repotting my Ficus Religiosa Bonsai. I last repotted this tree 3 years ago, so it's due to be done again. I'm going to be changing pots. I want to give the roots more room to grow, to get that nice radial root base. So I'm going to repot it in this shallow rectangular pot. I'll move the tree into the shade and start today's work here in the bonsai zone. I had a choice of 3 pots to plant this tree in. I'll show you the pots I considered and why I chose the rectangular one. The first pot I considered was this deep oval pot, and if I put it in front of the tree it just looks too heavy. It's quite large compared to the size of the tree, and it's deep, so it looks very heavy underneath the tree. Too much pot and too little tree. The next pot I considered was this large oval shallow pot, and the height of the pot is quite nice, but it's just too big a pot for the tree at this point in time. The tree may grow to eventually fit this pot someday, but for now, again, it's too much pot and too little tree. The last pot, and the one I chose, is a rectangular pot. It's got soft corners. It's not very deep. It's a shallow pot, and it's not huge in dimensions. It's longer than the previous pot, so it'll allow all those roots to spread out nice, but it's not too big that it overpowers the tree. I'll show you underneath the tree. You can see all the roots coming out of the drainage holes. So I'll tilt it up, and you can see the drainage hole on this side is just a clogged mass of roots. So once a drainage hole gets blocked like that, it's hard to water the tree properly, so that's an indication that it needs repotting. The other drainage hole has also got a lot of roots growing out of it. It's not blocked up as badly as this one, but it's still a sign that it needs repotting. The tree has been dormant since I brought it out for the summer this year, and I noticed the other day that it's just starting to grow some new leaves in, so it's coming out of dormancy. It's a good time to repot. The weather for the next couple of weeks is going to be warm and sunny, so it should recover quickly. Before I begin the repotting process, I'll prepare the pot. I'll put a drainage screen in the bottom and a shallow layer of soil. So here I go. I've started to use a one-piece drainage screen in the bottom of the pots, and I cover the entire bottom of the pot. And the reason is, if you have a forest or a group of trees, that drainage screen kind of holds everything together. The roots kind of intertwine with the drainage screen. So when you lift the planting out of the pot, it stays together as one unit and makes repotting a lot easier. If you have separate drainage screens that are wired to the pot and you try and get the tree out, the soil kind of crumbles and it makes it very messy and hard to get out of the pot. So that's the reason I've started putting one-piece drainage screens that cover the entire bottom of the pot. So I'll do that on this pot. So I'm just got my drainage screen in, and I'll cut it to the shape of the bottom of the pot, a large rectangle. To there. Like that. So now you can see it covers the entire bottom of the pot, and when it comes to repotting next, I can just lift it all out and the drainage screen will hold all the roots in place. My next step is to have a look at the pot. I want to look at it from this side and the back side here and try and find what is the front of the pot, the nicest looking side, less flaws, maybe nicer clay texture, and that kind of thing. So I'll look at the front here. It has a few defects in the clay here, just some grooves just above this lip that aren't so nice. This side is really nice. It's nice and clean. So this will be the front of the pot. I'll add a shallow base layer to the bottom of the pot now. And I'll level that out. And the roots will sit on top of that layer. I found the front of the pot, and now it's time to look at the tree from all angles and pick the best front. So this is the front now, and I did have one marked over here which made the root base slightly wider, so you can see it from this angle. I'm checking the upper branch structure too. I'm actually liking the original front of the tree. It's a good compromise between the upper branch structure and the flared root base. This has a slightly better root base, but the upper structure doesn't look so good. So I'm going to repot it in the original position. It's time now to get the tree out of the pot. So here I go. I'll loosen up the edges first. Okay, it should come out now. Wants to come out. I think it's those roots on the bottom. I've got to cut those away. That's what it is. So I'll get those cut away. Yeah. They're quite thick actually. No wonder it wouldn't come out of the pot. I forgot about those roots on the bottom, and they're actually tough and woody. I think I need bigger pruners than the scissors. I'll try these larger curved ones. Yeah, it's fused. You can see the woody part down here. It's like fused around the drainage hole. I don't think there's any water going through that hole. I'll use these spherical knob cutters and nibble away at it. Like that. That should do it. I'll give it a try. Okay, try number 2 for getting the tree out of the pot. Here I go. Again. It's still hard. I don't know. Oh. It's still being held in by those roots, I think. They're just really tight in that drainage hole. There it goes. Yeah, look at that root. It formed a woody plug that completely blocked the drainage hole. I'll show you a shot of that root. Here it is right here. I don't know if you can see it. Sticking out the bottom. It's like this woody, totally solid wood plug. Yeah, it's got bark on it and everything. Good solid root growing out the bottom there. Okay, so the next step will be to remove this moss. This is a really beautiful layer of moss on the tree. It just grew there naturally. I didn't plant it or anything. So I'll try and remove it in large pieces if I can, and maybe I can use it to replant on this tree or another tree in the future. It's not coming off very well, but it doesn't peel off. It's all intertwined with the roots. Yeah, I'm not having much luck peeling this moss off. It's just kind of scraping off in little pieces, so we'll just have to grow a new layer on this tree someday again in the future. I don't think I can use this. It's all just fluffy moss. You need that layer of soil underneath the moss to have it transplant successfully. This is the third time I've repotted this tree since I started the Bonsai Zone channel. So if you click on the playlist, you can go back in time and see everything I've done to this tree over the last 6 years. If you go to the main channel page on YouTube, there's a playlist tab. You click on that and you'll find the playlist for the Ficus Religiosa Bonsai. I'm starting at the edge of the root mass here, and I'm just trying to tease out all these roots, untangle them, comb out all the matted sections. So this was potted in a mixture of 50% turfus and 50% perlite last time, and it seems to have worked quite well. The tree's been nice and healthy, no problems with it. I can see that the soil's quite dry on the inside. I did water it thoroughly this morning, but it's already dried out. I think in the larger pot this tree's going to look much better someday when it gets that nice radial root spread across the surface of the soil. Right now in the smaller pot, they're nice radial roots and they hit the edge of the pot, and then they start growing down deep into the pot and they get all twisted and curled. So this will allow them to stretch their legs a bit, reach out and, you know, spread their wings. It should also help with the vigor of the tree a bit too. I think this tree could certainly, you know, grow a little more. With this leaf size on the Ficus Religiosa, it needs to be a medium to large bonsai to, look really miniature. I'm making good progress combing out the roots from the top. So now I think it's time to flip the tree over and start work on the underside. I've got the tree overhanging the edge of the table, so as I'm working on the roots, I won't damage the branches. So I'll just start from the middle and comb outwards in a radial pattern, trying to get all these roots untangled and sorted out. I've got most of the bonsai soil removed from around the root base now, so the next step is to give the roots a wash and then come in and do the root pruning. The frog has taken up residence in the other tub of water behind here where I put him last time. He seems really happy. I put a board in here just in case he jumped in here. He has a way of getting out. So here I go with the root washing. I'll just swish it around. The first thing I notice about the tree, the roots, is it doesn't sit very flat on the bottom. And that's because of that large root that grew out the drainage hole. There's a really thick root that's grown down below where I want the bottom of the root base. So that'll need to be pruned. So here's a look at the root base. There's that really thick root that went out the drainage hole. That probably would have broken the pot eventually. As it kept growing, it probably would have just cracked the pot in that spot. So it's a good thing I caught it when I did. Yeah, so I'm going to have to come in. There's a lot of thick roots in this area. I'll have to come in and start pruning around this area. These roots kind of grow and then they go back up into the root base. So they'll have to be pruned off. So here I go. I'm just going to come in and cut that really thick root right off. Like that. Look at that, eh? There's another root growing straight down here that needs to be pruned back shorter. there. So I want this root base flat on the bottom, so everything growing down needs to be pruned back. There's the base woody part of the root base. Pruning away all these roots growing straight down. That should sit a lot better now. Let's see. Yeah, nice and flat. A lot of root sorting out to do. There's a great big thick one here. I think that one's got to be removed completely or cut off really short. It's kind of sticking out of the root base. So I'll prune it off short here on an angle like that. So I'm going to come in now. I'm going to rake out the roots again, making sure I get all the old soil out here. There's a lot of moss kind of holding it in place. Looking at the roots and pruning away the ones I don't want. So there's that thick one I cut off. I think I can cut it off even closer to the base. It's still sticking up out of the root base. So I'll come in, prune it back like that. That looks much better. Making sure all the roots are nice and radial. Kind of balancing the roots, getting rid of thick ones and crossing roots. This root goes right across the root base, so that's got to come off also. Like that. Really got to get these surface roots in shape and looking good, because someday they will thicken up and really make this tree look nice. It'll have a really nice root base. Here's a crossing root up here I've got to remove like that. I'll probably have to rewash these roots. There's still quite a bit of the, I don't know if it's soil or moss or a combination of the both mixed in with the root base here. But we got to get that out. There's a root here. This root comes down nice and radial. And then there's this root that comes off at a strange angle. There's another one just above it here. We'll untangle those. That grows back into the root base somehow. Oh, okay, it comes from the bottom. And it's all intertwined there. So that definitely needs pruning shorter, like that. And then this one that comes off at the funny angle here, that has either got to be pruned off really short or removed entirely. This root's getting quite thick here compared to the others, so I think I'm going to remove it completely like that. That'll take a bit of vigor out of that root. This root may also need removing, I don't know. I'm going to untangle it first. It does have a bit of reverse taper in that root, which is something you're always trying to correct with ficuses, especially the roots. They're always doing bizarre things. You get potato roots, you get inverse taper roots, because that's how the tree anchors itself in the ground. The roots grow and then they thicken up, and those bulbous type roots just anchor the tree, so in a tropical storm the tree won't tip over. So it's a defense mechanism, and it works really well. I've seen the tops of ficus trees stripped of all their leaves, and the tree is still perfectly intact. It didn't tip over or anything in the storm. It just lost all its leaves, which is probably a good thing. It's how they survive. So I'm not liking that root. For one thing, it starts from here, kind of goes a bit sideways and then comes down. So yeah, I'm not liking that. I'm going to remove it. And Going to come in at an angle here. Like that. I think that looks better. It flows down nicely from the trunk into the soil. You're always after that nice smooth transition, flowing down from the trunk and spreading out into the soil. That's what makes a root base look really nice.